Now to Queens, police are looking into a hit-and-run crash that led them to a disturbing discovery. Officers say last night's crash in Flushing led them to find a man shot in the head in one of the vehicles. Here's News 4's Romney Smith with more.
What seemed like a regular traffic incident investigation of a hit and run quickly took a turn when police realized there was a body in the backseat of one of the vehicles with a gunshot wound to the head. At this point in time, we know a white van and a black Range Rover hit head on. And at this point in time, we know this happened at Sanford Avenue and Parsons Boulevard in Flushing. The driver of the Range Rover ran away while the driver of the white van called 911. When police realized that there was a person in the back of the Range Rover with a gunshot to their head, they immediately called the homicide team. The driver of the van is expected to be okay, but the victim has been identified as 48-year-old Myron Dukes. He was taken to the hospital and pronounced dead, but right now they're just trying to figure out when he was shot and why he was shot and find the driver of the black Range Rover who ran away. Reporting in Flushing, Queens, Romney Smith, News 4 New York.
What's good, y'all? What's the Numbers TV? It's your boy Parole. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already, and like a video if you appreciate the content that Parole and What's the Numbers I provided. Today we back with another profile piece. This one is on Chyna from Connecticut. In this video we're going to take a look at his early years growing up in Bridgeport. Then we will speak about how as a teenager he made news headlines all the way in New York City. After that, we will go into detail on how Chyna became a well-known inmate in the New York State prison system. And lastly, we will look at Chyna's life over the last few years and the situation surrounding his death that left many questions unanswered. Chyna from Connecticut, real name Myron Dukes, is from Bridgeport, Connecticut. Born in the P.T. Barnum community and raised on the east side, Chyna's childhood and adolescent years would be a little complicated, as Bridgeport wasn't a huge city, but still had its fair share of violence and crime taking place. Chyna would fall into the street life from her early age, and by 16, 17 years old, was already hustling and committing robberies. Then in February of 1992, Chyna, along with two of his friends, put a robbery plan together that could score them some drugs or money. They decided they were going to go to the Washington Heights section of New York City and rob some drug dealers that hustled on Amsterdam Avenue. But the problem was they only had one gun, and the trio argued over who was going to hold it during the robbery. Chyna and one accomplice eventually decided they were going to go in the building, while another accomplice stood outside as the getaway driver. The accomplice had the gun, and once inside the apartment where the robbery was supposed to take place, things started to fall apart fast, when Chyna's accomplice instantly shot one of the dealers, killing and turning the robbery into a homicide. The other dealer in the apartment, seeing what was taking place, threw the drugs out the window, which set off the next chain of events. When Chyna, seeing that they botched the robbery, he took the gun from the accomplice and threw it out the window into the backyard, where the police later found it. The duo then escaped out the bathroom window and onto a fire escape. That's when shots rang out, with one hitting Chyna's accomplice, killing him on the spot. Chyna makes it to the car and tells the driver that he thinks his partner is dead, and the two speed off as drug dealers and police give chase. Chyna and his remaining accomplice abandoned the car a few blocks away and eventually caught a bus back to Bridgeport, Connecticut. 3 weeks later, Chyna was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, weapons possession, and 2 counts of first-degree attempted robbery. The case would play itself out in court for a little over a year. During this time, Chyna would be housed on Rikers Island while he awaited trial. When Chyna first got to Rikers, he was treated like the average new inmate coming in by the prisoners that were there already. Him being from Connecticut and not that big in stature put a target on his back for other stronger inmates to try him a bit, as intimidation, robbery, and extortion were big on Rikers Island at the time. But listening to other inmates that were in there with Chyna, he supposedly caught on fast to the jail politics and learned how to move in the belly of the beast. He used the element of surprise to his advantage and was known to have a pop-off first ask questions later kind of attitude. In April of 1993, Chyna would take his case to trial and be convicted on all charges and sentenced to 21 years to life in the New York State prison system. From there, Chyna would be shipped up north to begin serving his time. He had built a nice little name for himself on Rikers Island by cutting a few dudes, but the maximum prisons in the mountain are usually a different beast. According to individuals that were locked up with him, Chyna started a run with Brooklyn dudes up north and had problems with the Bloods. Allegedly, he cut a Blood gang member in one of the many jails he did time in, although some say it happened in Clinton, and became what was known as a plate to any Blood member that crossed his path. Some of the things that were said about Chyna while he was doing his time in prison was that he was sneaky, he got busy, and was known to get off first to protect himself from being a sitting duck around enemies. Chyna, while doing all those years, also racked up a long disciplinary record in jail and will file his own paperwork in attempts to have his conviction tossed. One time he sued Greenhaven Correctional Facility for denying his bid for parole as his time in prison was winding down. Then, finally, in 2016, after serving over 20 years in prison, Chyna was granted parole and released back to society. He returned quietly to Connecticut and began to rebuild his life in an attempt to make up for all the years he lost in jail. He got involved in a few different community outreach programs in his city and had plans of putting on violence-free events in his neighborhood where people of all ages could come and enjoy themselves. But his transition from convict to social activist wasn't easy though, as everything didn't go as smoothly as he wanted it to. He was actually met with resistance from the powers that be, and in 2021, Chyna from Connecticut, aka Shy Dukes, decided to make his entry into the YouTube streets. The first time I actually seen Chyna on camera was in an interview he did with Bullis Gotti after there was some confusion on who the real Chyna was, as there was already someone on YouTube with the name Chyna who had also done jail time in the New York State prison system. In an attempt to let the public know who Chyna from Connecticut was, he stepped out into the light, which caused him to be more visible on YouTube with interviews and with videos of others talking about their relationship with Chyna from Connecticut. So in the whole midst of the Chyna from Connecticut versus Chyna Brim situation, there will be a Gervonta Tank Davis fight at the Barclays Center in May of 2022. Chyna from Connecticut would attend the fight and ended up getting jumped on camera. The video made its way to YouTube and was talked about for weeks, with many bloggers making reaction vids to the situation. Chyna from Connecticut would lick his wounds and take it in stride. He made a few posts to his Instagram calling out those that jumped him, but other than that, we didn't hear too much about it. Chyna even fell back a little from YouTube after the Barclays Center event, but recently he did re-emerge on YouTube with another interview on Bullis Gotti page. Allegedly, Chyna was working on finalizing some business with the rapper turned TV mogul 50 Cent about a show on his life, and there was rumors that he had a lawsuit pending over the situation at the Barclays Center. But before any of that could take place, Chyna from Connecticut, aka Myron Dukes, will make news headlines again on November 9, 2022, when he was shot and killed in Queens, New York. The story that came out was that Chyna was found fatally shot in the backseat of a Range Rover that had just crashed into another vehicle at the intersection of Parsons Boulevard and Franklin Avenue in Flushing, Queens. The driver of the Range Rover fled on foot, and eyewitnesses said he was carrying a bag in his hand as he fled. Police responded and found 48-year-old Myron Dukes, aka Chyna from Connecticut, dead in the rear passenger seat with a gunshot wound to the back of the head. And with that, a legendary inmate in the New York State prison system's life has came to an end. Was it wrong place at the wrong time, some business that went bad, or maybe Chyna was into some other things? So far no one knows, as no suspects or the driver that was seen fleeing have been identified. But yo, it's What's the Numbers TV. There's a quick profile piece on Chyna from Connecticut, aka Shy Dukes, aka Chyna Man, aka Chynils, aka Myron Dukes, you know what I'm saying, out of Bridgeport, Connecticut. He dropped a book list earlier this year about the assassination of JFK. He was a published author, you know what I'm saying. He did different like, you know, interviews about the book and, you know, things like that, articles about it and different things. So he definitely was a published author. Now, he was from out of town. He was from out of town in Connecticut, you know, bidding in New York State. So, you know, that already put him behind the 8 ball. And, you know, from all accounts, people that was locked up with him, he held his own. Some people give him more credit than others. Some people saying he wasn't that rowdy. He wasn't a loud dude. He was, you know, get away fitting kind of guy. Other dudes say he was a #1 op for the Bloods for a long time and was a worldwide plate and was known for putting it in and, you know, for getting off first, and nobody really ever got a chance to really get at him. These are different narratives that's out there. You believe whichever one you want to believe. Now, but one thing's for sure, a lot of people knew him. On YouTube, off YouTube, all the big YouTubers knew about Chyna from Connecticut. They all got stories about him or they heard about him, you know what I'm saying? So he definitely got some type of clout behind his name, you understand? Now, you know, when he died, a lot of people try to say, oh, maybe he came home playing that jail game, trying to lean on dudes. Some dudes said from interactions they had with him, they think that's what it was, but nobody knows for sure until the story really comes out. So we just got to wait and see. Now, if he did come home, then, you know, obviously it kind of bit him in the ass if that's what happened, if it was some street stuff. But, you know, maybe he was just involved in some street stuff. And, you know, street stuff, when you're involved in street stuff, street things happen. Now, maybe it could have been some old beef from up north. You never know. You know, sometimes those beefs last a lifetime. But myself, I don't think it was nothing YouTube related. You understand what I'm saying? Could have had been something with the Barclays. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe all that ties into everything. I don't know. But as far as being YouTube related, I don't think nothing, relating to his death had anything to do with YouTube related. In fact, it seems like it was some real street stuff, or it just might have been some situations he was in, all wrong place at the wrong time. But like I said, man, 48 years old, he lost his life. Rest in peace to him. Condolences to his family. He just had a kid. He got another kid supposedly, but he just had a newborn daughter. So she got to grow up without a father. Sad situation. Cycle repeats itself. And that's the profile piece on Myron Dukes, aka Chyna from Connecticut, aka Shy Nils, aka Shy Dukes. And we're gonna keep it pushing, man. What's the Numbers TV? Subscribe to the channel. We on our way to 82,000, pushing for 100K subscribers. You know what I'm saying? That's the goal right now. Go follow the Instagram. Follow my co-host Batty Bills on Instagram. Also, we got episode 3 of the audio podcast out on all streaming platforms right now. Make sure y'all go listen to that. And we back before you know it, man. It's Parole. What's Numbers TV? We out of here. Peace.